It was a crisp October morning in the small town of Redwood Junction, the kind of quiet, forgotten place where everyone knew everyone, and where the loudest noise most days came from the rusted bell over Ray Carter's garage door. Ray, a 52-year-old mechanic with hands permanently stained from years of oil and grease, was already at work before sunrise. The morning had been uneventful, an oil change here, a brake replacement there, until a midnight blue semi-truck rolled into the gravel lot. It was an older model, the paint dulled by years on the road, but the chrome grille gleamed like new. The driver, a tall man in a dark hoodie and mirrored sunglasses, stepped out without a word. His presence felt wrong. Ray noticed it immediately. Truckers were usually chatty, eager to swap stories about long hauls, weather, or diner coffee. But this man only muttered, "Rear tires losing air. Fix it fast. Cash." The first sign something was off. Ray crouched beside the truck and began inspecting the back tire. The air pressure was indeed low, but something else caught his attention. Lifting the wheel felt different. It wasn't just heavy, it was dense, as if the rubber was hiding something. He gave the tire a solid tap with a mallet. The thud wasn't hollow like a normal tire. Instead, it was muffled, almost like striking a sandbag. Ray glanced up at the driver. "You carrying anything extra in here?" he asked casually. The man's jaw tightened. "Just fix it." Curiosity turns to suspicion. Ray rolled the tire onto the workbench and began unmounting it from the rim. As the driver paced outside, checking his phone, Ray's unease grew. He'd worked on thousands of tires in his life, he knew their weight, their feel. This was wrong. Then he noticed something even stranger, a faint chemical smell, not the usual mix of rubber and road grime. It was sharp, synthetic. At this point, a normal customer would have been curious, maybe even helpful. But the driver stayed at the far end of the lot, chain-smoking and keeping his face hidden beneath the hoodie. The moment of truth. Ray decided to cut into the tire. With a firm grip on his utility knife, he began slicing through the thick rubber. The first few cuts were routine, until the blade snagged on something inside. When he pried the slit open, his stomach turned. Inside the tire were tightly wrapped black plastic packages, sealed with industrial tape. He knew instantly, this wasn't extra ballast. It wasn't spare parts. This was contraband, and a lot of it. Calling 911. Ray kept his hands steady, hiding his discovery from the driver. Without making a scene, he grabbed his cell phone from under the counter and dialed 911. "Redwood Junction Garage," he whispered. "I've got a truck here with a tire full of something illegal. Driver's still on site. Send units fast." The dispatcher's tone sharpened instantly. "Stay calm. Keep him there. Officers are on the way." Time slows down. The next 5 minutes felt like an eternity. Ray pretended to work on the tire, his back to the driver, while his heart pounded in his ears. Every few seconds, he'd glance at the road, praying to see flashing lights. The driver, meanwhile, seemed to sense something was off. "You done yet?" he barked, his voice edged with impatience. Ray wiped his hands on a rag, forcing a smile. Almost there. Just a stubborn bead on the rim. But in truth, he was keeping the men talking, stalling for time. The arrival. Finally, the distant wail of sirens cut through the still morning air. The driver stiffened, eyes narrowing. Before he could react, 2 black and white police cruisers slid into the lot, gravel spraying. Officers leapt out, weapons drawn. "Hands where we can see them." The driver bolted toward the cab of the truck. But he didn't make it 2 steps before an officer tackled him to the ground. The unraveling. The packages inside the tire were confiscated on the spot. Field tests confirmed Ray's suspicion. They contained over 60 pounds of illegal narcotics. What stunned everyone was the method. Smugglers had been hollowing out truck tires and using them as mobile storage, swapping them out at remote stops. This truck was just one link in a far larger operation. The driver? Not the truck's owner. He was a mule, paid to haul the vehicle from one state to another, no questions asked. He now faced decades in prison. The aftermath for Ray. In the days that followed, Ray's garage became the talk of the town. Local news crews filmed outside, and federal agents visited to gather every detail of his discovery. One evening, after the chaos had settled, Ray sat alone in the garage, staring at the empty workbench where the tire had been. He couldn't shake the thought, what if he hadn't noticed the weight? If he'd simply patched the tire and sent the driver on his way, that cargo would have made it to its destination, fueling crimes far beyond Redwood Junction. A quiet hero. Ray never considered himself a hero, but the sheriff made it clear. "You stopped a shipment worth nearly $2 million from hitting the streets. That's no small thing." Ray just shrugged. "I just did my job." But deep down, he knew this morning had been different. His instincts, honed over decades in a dusty little garage, had just dismantled a small part of a dangerous network. And he'd never look at a heavy tire the same way again.